in the heart of eastern Nigeria, nestled between thick forests and winding rivers, stood the village of Umuozala. To a traveler passing by, it seemed like every other African village. Goats bleating in the distance, children chasing one another barefoot, women singing as they pounded yam, and men discussing the day's harvest beneath the great iroko tree. But beneath the laughter and songs of Umuozala, there was a silence that pressed against the chest like a heavy stone. Outsiders did not notice it, but those who lived in Umuozala knew it well. There were things never spoken of, questions never asked, and truths buried so deep that even the bravest tongues trembled to utter them. It was said among the elders, "The mouth that tells what the ear should not hear will bring fire to the homestead." And so, generation after generation, Umuozala learned to keep quiet. Yet, in every season, a child is born who refuses to walk the beaten path. In Umuozala, that child was Nneoma. Nneoma was 17, the daughter of a palm wine tapper and a trader. Unlike other girls her age, she was not content with cooking, fetching water, or weaving mats. She asked questions. Why did the village never cross the old stream at night? Why did the chief's guards carry charms soaked in blood? Why did every harvest season one family mysteriously lose a child? When her mother hushed her, Nneoma would frown and say, "If we do not speak, does the truth die with us?" Her boldness was admired by a few but feared by most. Some said she carried the stubborn spirit of her grandmother, who once challenged the chief and was never seen again. Others whispered that she was touched by the gods, for her dreams often came true. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Nneoma sat with her father outside their hut. He was mending his raffia tapper's belt when she asked the question that had haunted her for weeks. "Papa," she began cautiously, "why is it that when the moon is full, the gong of the village square sounds, but no one dares to step outside?" Her father's hand froze. He looked at her, his eyes sharp with fear. He glanced around to ensure no neighbor was near, then hissed, "Nneoma, that question is death. Never ask it again." "But Papa—" "Silence," he snapped, his voice trembling. He drew her closer and whispered, "Not every truth is safe to speak. The land you walk on has ears. The night listens. Do you want to bring calamity upon us?" Nneoma swallowed hard, but in her heart, a fire was lit. That very night, as the village grew quiet and the full moon climbed high, Nneoma could not sleep. She lay awake, listening. Then it came. The deep, hollow sound of the village gong echoing through the silence. Gboom! Gboom! It rang slowly, deliberately, like the heartbeat of a giant. She sat up, her skin prickling. No one stirred. Doors remained bolted. Not even a dog barked. The gong sounded 7 times. Then silence fell again. Her curiosity gnawed at her chest. What secret did Umuozala hide? Why did fear keep everyone indoors? And why did her father's face look as though he carried a burden too heavy for one man? As she lay back down, a strange thought crossed her mind. Perhaps it was not the people who chose silence, but silence itself that had chosen Umuozala. And Nneoma, though she did not yet know it, was destined to break it. The morning after the gong sounded, Umuozala awoke as though nothing had happened. Women filled their clay pots at the stream, hunters returned with bushmeat, and children laughed while chasing grasshoppers in the fields. But Nneoma could not shake the echo of the gong from her mind. It had not been a dream. She remembered the way it rolled across the village like thunder, deep, commanding, and chilling. She walked with her best friend Obioma to the market square. Obioma was soft-spoken, the kind of girl who never looked anyone in the eye for too long. As they carried baskets of vegetables, Nneoma lowered her voice. "Obioma, did you hear the gong last night?" Obioma stiffened. Her eyes darted around. Then she whispered, "Nneoma, do not speak of it here. Walls have ears. Then when? Nneoma pressed. Obioma swallowed. There are things better left unsaid. My mother told me that those who ask too many questions invite the anger of the spirits. Nneoma frowned. But Obioma, do you not wonder? Every full moon the gong sounds and no one moves. Even the dogs are silent. Is that not strange to you? Obioma's lips quivered. It is not for us to wonder. My uncle once asked the same questions. 3 days later, he drowned in shallow water, water that reached only to his knees. Since then, I keep my mouth shut. Her words sent a shiver through Nneoma, but the fire in her chest refused to die. At the market, she noticed something odd. The chief's guards stood at every corner, their eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for a thief. Each carried not only a spear, but also a small gourd tied to their waist. The gourds dripped a dark, sticky liquid that stained their wrappers. Nneoma wrinkled her nose. Was it palm oil? Or something else? An old woman selling dried fish leaned toward her and hissed, "Child, keep your eyes to yourself. Do not stare too long, or they will see you seeing." Nneoma blinked. "Mama, what is inside those gourds?" The old woman's wrinkled hand trembled as she crossed herself and whispered, "Blood." Nneoma gasped. "Blood? Of what?" But before the woman could answer, one of the guards barked, "What are you whispering about, old witch?" The woman quickly turned away, pretending to arrange her fish. Nneoma felt her heart race. That night, she could not sleep again. She lay in the darkness, her eyes fixed on the roof of her hut. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside, light, careful, deliberate. She crept to the window and peeked through the raffia blind. A figure in a dark wrapper slipped silently past their compound. In his hand, he carried a small clay pot that glowed faintly, as if fireflies were trapped inside. Nneoma's breath caught. Who was he? And where was he going? She waited until he disappeared down the narrow path that led toward the old stream, the very place her father had always forbidden her to go at night. Her heart pounded. Should she follow? Every part of her screamed that it was dangerous, yet the curiosity that had haunted her since childhood burned hotter than fear. She grabbed her wrapper, tied it tight, and slipped out into the night. The forest whispered around her, alive with the cries of crickets and the rustle of leaves. The moon lit her path as she hurried after the shadowy figure. At the edge of the old stream, she stopped. What she saw made her knees weaken. The man knelt by the water, chanting words she could not understand. He poured the contents of the clay pot into the stream. The faint glow spread across the water like oil, then sank beneath the surface. But that was not all. From the darkness, 3 other figures emerged, each carrying the same kind of pot. They circled the man, chanting in unison. Nneoma pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting a scream. The air grew heavy, thick, almost suffocating, and then, as if sensing her presence, all 4 figures stopped chanting. Slowly, they turned their heads toward the trees where she hid. Their eyes glowed red. Nneoma staggered back, her heart slamming against her ribs. She turned to run, but a voice cut through the night like a blade. "The girl sees too much." Nneoma ran. Branches whipped her face, roots clawed at her feet, but she did not stop. The sound of footsteps followed, soft yet terrifyingly close. She burst into her compound, pushed the wooden door shut, and pressed her back against it, gasping. Her mother stirred from sleep. "Nneoma? What madness is this?" But Nneoma could not answer. She trembled, sweat dripping down her temples. She dared not tell her mother what she had seen, for even now she felt the weight of those red eyes burning through her memory. By dawn, the village seemed peaceful again. Men sharpened their hoes, women cooked, and children played as though no shadows lurked at the edge of the old stream. But Nneoma's heart carried a storm. That evening, the chief announced a gathering at the market square. The great talking drum was beaten, summoning everyone. The sound was unlike anything Nneoma had heard before, deep, commanding, almost mournful. When the people gathered, The drum stood at the center of the square. It was massive, carved from the trunk of an ancient iroko tree. Its surface glistened with oil, and cowrie shells hung from its sides. Elders whispered that this drum was older than Umuozala itself, older than the chief, older than the river. No one was allowed to touch it, let alone beat it, except the Ozo men, keepers of the village's deepest secrets. To touch the drum without permission was death. The chief, a tall man with a beard as white as cotton, stood before the crowd. His voice carried the weight of authority. "People of Umuozala," he declared, "tonight we honor the spirits who guard our land. Without them, our yam would rot, our children would die, our river would dry. So we must give thanks." The crowd nodded, murmuring their agreement. The Ozo men stepped forward, each carrying a small gourd. At once, Nneoma recognized them. The same gourds she had seen in the hands of the guards, the same kind that had glowed at the old stream. Her chest tightened. The Ozo men poured the contents of their gourds onto the ground before the drum. The air filled with the metallic scent of blood. Women bowed their heads. Men chanted softly. Then, the chief raised his staff. "Let the drum speak!" One of the Ozo men struck the drum. Its sound rolled across the square like thunder, vibrating through Nneoma's bones. Boom! 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 At each strike, the crowd grew more frenzied. Some people danced with wild eyes, others fell to the ground shaking as though seized by spirits. Nneoma's gaze locked on the drum. She saw it pulse. Yes, pulse. As though alive, as though it had a heartbeat. Her breath caught. The cowries on its sides rattled, though no wind blew. And for a brief moment, she swore she heard a voice within the booming sound. A whisper, faint yet unmistakable. Blood for silence, blood for peace. Nneoma staggered back. Her mind reeled. Was the village's prosperity built on sacrifice? Was the silence of Umuozala bought with blood? She turned to Obioma, who stood beside her, trembling. "Do you hear it?" Nneoma whispered. Obioma shook her head violently. "Stop, Nneoma. Stop before someone hears you. This is how people disappear." But Nneoma could not stop. The fire in her chest blazed higher. She could not unhear the voice of the drum, nor could she ignore the truth pressing against her throat like a blade. When the ritual ended, the chief lifted his staff again. "Our land remains strong because we obey the spirits. But beware. Those who speak against the spirits invite their wrath. The ancestors see, the ancestors hear, and the ancestors punish." The people bowed their heads in silence, but Nneoma, standing tall among them, thought only one thing. What if it is not the spirits, but men who hide behind them? Her heart knew then, if she remained silent, the truth would bury her. And so, in that moment, Nneoma made a vow. She would uncover the secret of Umuozala, even if it cost her life. 2 days passed after the ritual, but Nneoma could not rest. The sound of the forbidden drum haunted her ears. Its whisper gnawed at her chest. Blood for silence, blood for peace. She could no longer keep it to herself. The truth swelled inside her like a storm cloud ready to burst. So when the market day came, she decided to speak. The square was alive with color and sound. Traders shouted their prices. Yam for 5 cowries, fresh palm oil. Children darted between stalls, goats bleated, and the air smelled of roasted maize and groundnut soup. Nneoma continued, her voice louder now. "We live in fear. We keep silent, but silence will not protect us. Something dark hides in our village, and it feeds on our obedience. I have seen it with my own eyes. Men at the old stream pouring strange offerings into the water, and I heard the drum itself whisper, 'Blood for silence, blood for peace.' Is that the peace we enjoy? Bought with blood?" A gasp rose from the crowd. Mothers clutched their children. Some elders spat on the ground to ward off evil. Obioma rushed to Nneoma's side, tugging at her wrapper. "Stop, Nneoma, please. You do not know what you are doing." But Nneoma shook her off. If we remain silent, the truth will drown us all. Before she could say more, a harsh voice cut through the crowd. Enough! The chief's guards pushed through, their spears gleaming in the sun. The people scattered, some running, others hiding their faces. The head guard, a tall man with scarred cheeks, pointed at Nneoma. Seize her! 2 guards grabbed her arms. Obioma screamed, Please, she meant no harm! The head guard sneered. The girl speaks against the spirits. Let her learn the price of blasphemy. The crowd watched in silence. Some pitied her, but none dared speak. After all, in Umuozala, silence was survival. As the guards dragged her toward the chief's compound, Nneoma's eyes swept across the faces in the square. Then she saw him, Ikenna, her childhood friend, standing near the palm oil sellers. Their eyes met. Relief washed over her. Surely Ikenna, who once swore to protect her, would step forward. But to her horror, Ikenna looked away. Worse still, he whispered something to one of the guards, and the guard nodded. Her heart dropped like a stone. Ikenna, her closest ally, had betrayed her. She stumbled as the guards yanked her forward. Her voice cracked, not with fear, but with fury. You may silence me today, she shouted, but the truth will not stay buried. The earth itself will cry out. The guards shoved her to the ground, and the square erupted with nervous murmurs. Mothers hurried their children away. Traders lowered their heads. And the chief's men dragged Nneoma into the compound, her cries echoing behind them. In the market square, Obioma wept quietly. Ikenna stood still, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. He had chosen his side. But what Nneoma did not know was this. Her betrayal was only the beginning. The real storm had not yet broken. The chief's compound loomed like a fortress, its mud walls tall and unyielding, its gates guarded by men who never smiled. The guards dragged Nneoma inside and threw her onto the dusty ground. The chief sat on a carved wooden stool, his staff across his knees. His eyes, sharp and calculating, studied her as though she were a goat, brought for slaughter. So, he said at last, his voice low, the little bird has found her tongue. Nneoma lifted her chin. I only spoke the truth. The chief leaned forward, his bearded face shadowed by the flickering torchlight. Truth? You know nothing of truth, child. There are matters older than your father's bones, older than this village itself, and those who try to uncover them are swallowed by the earth. Nneoma's hands trembled, but her voice held steady. If the truth swallows me, then so be it, but others will rise to speak it again. The chief's eyes hardened. He struck the ground with his staff, and the guards pulled her away. She was locked in a small hut behind the compound, its only window sealed with wooden bars. That night, as the compound fell silent, Nneoma lay on the bare floor. Sleep evaded her. The air grew heavy, the silence pressing against her ears until she thought she would go mad. Then she heard it, faint at first, then clearer. A whisper, like the sigh of the wind, but coming from inside the hut. Nneoma? Her blood froze. She sat up quickly, her eyes darting in the dark. Who is there? Silence. Then again the voice, Do not fear, child of fire. Her skin prickled. Who are you? The voice seemed to seep from the walls themselves. We are the ones buried in silence. We are the forgotten, the sacrificed, the voices smothered by the drum. You have broken the chain. Nneoma's heart pounded. The whisper was not one voice, but many, layered together like the cries of 100 souls. Her throat tightened. What do you want from me? Speak. Do not stop, for if you are silenced, Umuozala will fall into darkness. A chill swept through the hut, though no breeze passed. The wooden bars rattled as though unseen hands shook them. Then, as suddenly as it began, the voices faded. Nneoma collapsed against the wall, her body shaking. Was it a dream? A spirit's trick? Or the cries of the dead themselves? Before she could gather her thoughts, the door creaked open. Obioma slipped inside, her face pale. "Nneoma," she whispered urgently. "I bribed the guard with yam flour to let me in. Are you hurt?" Nneoma grasped her friend's hands. "Obioma, I heard them. Voices, spirits. They spoke of the sacrifices. They told me the drum is fed with blood." Obioma's face went white. "Stop, Nneoma, please. If anyone hears you—" "I will not stop," Nneoma said fiercely. "This silence is built on bones. The spirits themselves beg for truth." Obioma's eyes filled with tears. "Then you are doomed, because the chief will never let you live if you keep speaking." At that moment, heavy footsteps approached. Obioma squeezed her hand and fled, leaving Nneoma alone once more. The door opened, and to her surprise, it was Ikenna who entered. He carried a small lantern, his face cast in shadow. Nneoma's chest tightened with anger. "Why?" she spat. "Why did you betray me?" Ikenna's jaw clenched. "You do not understand. I had no choice. They are watching everyone. If I stood with you, they would have taken my family." "You could have stood with the truth," Nneoma shot back. He flinched but stepped closer. "Listen to me. The chief is planning something. At the next full moon, there will be a sacrifice. Not just an animal, a person." Nneoma's blood ran cold. "Who?" Ikenna hesitated, then whispered, "You." The words crashed over her like a wave. Before she could respond, the lantern flickered wildly, though no wind blew. Then it went out, plunging the hut into darkness. And in the blackness, the whispering voices returned, louder this time, filling every corner. Blood for silence. Blood for peace. The girl must not fall. Ikenna stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror. What is that?" Nneoma stood tall, her fear swallowed by a strange calm. "The spirits," she said softly. "They have spoken, and I will not be silenced." The next morning, the chief summoned Nneoma to stand before him once again. The guards dragged her into the courtyard, her wrists bound with raffia rope. The sun blazed overhead, but a strange chill ran through her bones. The chief regarded her in silence for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice calm, almost gentle. "Young girl, you are stubborn, like your grandmother was. Do you know what became of her?" Nneoma's throat tightened. She had heard only whispers about her grandmother, Azine, a woman who vanished many years ago. Some said she died in childbirth. Others said she was taken by spirits. "What do you know of her?" Nneoma asked carefully. The chief leaned on his staff. "Your grandmother also tried to question the silence of Umuozala. She stood where you stand now, daring to speak what should remain buried. And so, the ancestors demanded a price." Nneoma's chest burned. "You mean, you sacrificed her?" The chief's eyes glinted, but he did not answer directly. Instead, he said, "Peace is never free. Do you think our yam barns are full by chance? Do you think our river runs pure while other villages suffer drought? No, child, it is because we honor the pact." "What pact?" Nneoma pressed. The chief's lips curved into a thin smile. "Long ago, when Umuozala was young, our people made a covenant with the spirits of the forest. Every season, a life must be given in exchange for protection. Without it, our land would wither, and our people would perish. Your grandmother tried to end it. She failed. And now you walk her path." Nneoma's stomach churned. "This is not a covenant with spirits. It is murder. You hide behind tradition to cover your evil." The chief slammed his staff to the ground, his face darkening. "Careful, girl, you speak too boldly." But Nneoma did not flinch. "If the spirits truly wanted this, why would they whisper to me? Why would they cry out from the drum itself? I heard them, chief. They do not want more blood. It is you who demands it, not them." A ripple of unease passed through the guards standing nearby. One shifted uncomfortably. Another glanced nervously at the drum that stood at the far end of the courtyard. The chief's eyes flashed with fury. He rose, towering over her. "You think you have seen the truth? You have seen nothing." He motioned to the guards. "Take her to the shrine. Let her see what lies beneath." Nneoma's heart pounded as they dragged her toward the inner compound, a place no ordinary villager was ever allowed. The air grew colder as they approached a large hut covered in palm fronds. Strange symbols marked the mud walls, painted in red and white clay. Inside, the smell of blood and smoke hung heavy. At the center stood the forbidden drum. It was even larger up close, its cowries dull in the dim light. But what made Nneoma's blood run cold was what lay at its base. Bones. Human bones, piled like firewood, their hollow eyes staring into eternity. Her knees buckled. She had suspected, but to see it with her own eyes was a wound too deep to bear. The chief's voice echoed behind her. "Here is the truth, child. Every beat of this drum is a voice silenced, a life offered for peace. Your grandmother lies among these bones, and soon you will join her." Nneoma's eyes burned with tears, but her spirit did not break. She turned to face him, her voice trembling but defiant. "You are no guardian of this village. You are its butcher. One day the blood you spill will rise against you." The chief's face twisted with rage. "Enough!" He struck her across the cheek with his staff. Pain seared through her, but she stood tall, refusing to fall. At that moment, the forbidden drum throbbed. A low, hollow sound reverberated through the shrine, though no hand had touched it. The cowries rattled, and the bones at its base clattered as if stirred by unseen hands. The guards froze, fear etched on their faces. And from the drum came a voice, deep and booming, heard by all. "The blood of the innocent cries out. The covenant is broken." The chief staggered back, his eyes wide. "No, this cannot be." But Nneoma smiled through her tears. "Do you hear it now? The spirits have spoken, and their judgment is upon you." The next day, the talking drum summoned the people to the village square. Its sound was harsh, relentless, shaking the ground with every strike. Word spread quickly. The chief would put Nneoma on trial. By midday, the square was packed. Men, women, and children pressed together, whispering nervously. The air was thick with anticipation, fear, and something darker, anger carefully stirred. Nneoma was dragged into the center, her wrists bound, her face bruised where the chief's staff had struck her. Yet she stood tall, her eyes burning with defiance. The chief rose from his seat on the wooden platform, his staff gleaming in the sun. His voice boomed across the square. "People of Umuozala, this girl has spoken against our ways, against our ancestors, against the very spirits who keep our land alive. She has broken the silence and mocked the covenant. Shall such a one live?" The crowd murmured. Some nodded, others shook their heads, but no one spoke loudly. The chief raised his hand. "You all know our peace is not free. For generations, we have honored the spirits, and they have blessed us. But this girl, this child of rebellion, dares to claim the spirits have turned against us. She spreads lies, threatens our survival. What say you?" A man from the crowd shouted, "She is cursed." Another cried, "She brings death upon us all." The murmurs grew into shouts. Fear twisted into fury. Nneoma lifted her voice above the noise. "My people, listen. The spirits have spoken. The blood sacrifices are not their will. They are the chief's deceit. I have seen the bones with my own eyes. Our peace is built on murder, not on blessing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mothers clutched their children closer. Some men spat on the ground. He raised his staff high. "By the law of Umuozala, she must be punished. Let her blood seal her blasphemy. At the next full moon, she will be offered to the ancestors, so that peace may return to our land." The crowd erupted in cheers and chants. "Sacrifice her! Sacrifice her. Nneoma's chest tightened. She searched the crowd, desperate for a friendly face. She saw Obioma, weeping silently, her lips moving in prayer. She saw Ekena, standing rigid, his jaw clenched, his eyes filled with guilt, but still he did not move. Her voice broke as she shouted, "Do you not see? You are cheering your own chains. If they silence me today, who will they silence tomorrow? Your sons? Your daughters? Your wives?" But her words were drowned by the chanting. The guards pulled her away, dragging her back toward the chief's compound. As they passed the great Iroko tree at the edge of the square, she whispered a vow to herself. "Even if they kill me, the truth will not die." Yet as the sun dipped and shadows stretched across the square, Nneoma felt the weight of despair pressing hard against her heart. For the first time she wondered, would she survive to see another dawn? The night after the trial, Umuozala was restless. The air was heavy with unease, though the villagers tried to convince themselves they had done the right thing. Some drank palm wine to quiet their thoughts, others huddled indoors, whispering about Nneoma's curse. But the children could not sleep. They swore they heard the cries of the forest spirits, drifting through the wind like mournful songs. In the chief's compound, Nneoma sat bound inside a hut, the scent of dried blood and smoke thick in her nostrils. Her body ached, but her spirit refused to bend. She whispered prayers to the ancestors, the true ancestors, not the ones twisted by the chief's lies. Suddenly, a sharp sound split the night. Boom. Then another. The sky turned red as fire erupted, devouring dry thatch like hungry beasts. Screams filled the air as people ran into the square, clutching children and pots of water. "The spirits are angry," someone shouted. "No, it is a curse," cried another. But then came the most terrifying sight of all, the sacred hut of the ancestors, where the chief kept the forbidden drum, burst into flames. The fire burned white-hot, unnatural, as if it were no ordinary fire. The drum's voice thundered even without a drummer's hands, a deep and terrible rhythm that shook the ground. Doom, doom, doom. The villagers fell to their knees, wailing, "The ancestors! They are here!" Inside her prison hut, Nneoma's heart pounded. She knew this was no ordinary fire. Something had awakened. Suddenly the door creaked open. It was Ekena. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. "We have little time," he whispered, cutting her bonds with a sharp stone. "The fire has spread too quickly. It is not natural. You must leave, Nneoma." She staggered to her feet, her wrists raw. "And what of the truth? Will you keep hiding it?" Ekena's jaw trembled. "The people will not listen." Before he could finish, a scream tore through the night. The chief himself stumbled into the square, his robes aflame. His staff, once glowing, now crackled with sparks like lightning gone mad. "The spirits betray me!" he shrieked, clawing at the burning fabric. "They were mine, mine!" The villagers gasped, their fear shifting to horror. For the first time they saw him not as a sacred leader, but as a man consumed by his own lies. Then came the final blow. As the sacred hut collapsed in fire, bones tumbled out, skulls and ribs and tiny frames of children once taken in silence. The truth lay bare before the whole village, lit by the unforgiving flames. Nneoma's voice rang out, strong and steady. "You see now, our peace was bought with the blood of the innocent. It was never the spirits. It was the greed of men." The villagers wailed, tearing their wrappers, beating their chests. Some rushed to the chief, but he fell into the fire, swallowed in an instant, his screams echoing like the cries of the damned. Obioma ran to Nneoma, tears streaming down her face. "You were right all along. Oh, sister, forgive us." But Nneoma shook her head. "Do not seek my forgiveness. Seek forgiveness from those whose blood cries beneath this soil." The fire raged through the night. sparing only the iroko tree that stood tall, its bark untouched, as though it had witnessed everything and claimed the truth for itself. By dawn, Umuozala lay in ashes. The silence of the village was gone, replaced by a heavy mourning and the first stirrings of something new. Nneoma stood at the edge of the ruins, the morning sun glinting off her tear-stained face. She had survived, but she knew the true trial was still to come. Could a village built on silence ever learn to sing a new song? Tear-stained face. She had survived, but she knew the true trial was still to come. Could a village built on silence ever learn to sing a new song? The sun rose slowly over Umuozala, casting a pale light on the ruins left by the fire. The air smelled of smoke and sorrow. Ash clung to every rooftop, every tree branch, and every face that had survived the night. The villagers gathered silently in the square, their eyes hollow with grief and shame. No one spoke of rebuilding. No one dared to mention the chief. His ashes had mingled with the bones he had hidden, and that was how he would be remembered. Nneoma stood apart, her hair singed, her wrapper torn but her spirit unbroken. The people watched her now with a mix of awe and guilt. The same tongues that had cursed her days ago now whispered her name with reverence. Obioma approached first, her knees buckling as she fell before Nneoma. "Forgive me, sister. I doubted you when I should have stood by your side. I let fear silence me." Nneoma touched her friend's shoulder, her voice soft but firm. "Fear enslaves us only when we bow to it. Rise, Obioma. The truth has freed us all, though it came with fire." Others began to step forward, women, men, even children. They confessed their silence, their complicity, their blindness. Tears soaked the earth as they admitted how they had allowed evil to thrive because they were too afraid to question. Then Nneoma came. His face was streaked with ash, his eyes heavy with shame. "I betrayed you," he said, his voice breaking. "I knew the chief's secrets, but I chose silence because I feared losing my place. I am unworthy to stand before you." And Nneoma looked at him for a long moment. "You are not unworthy, Nneoma. You are proof that silence destroys even the strong. But now you must carry this truth with courage, not with chains." He bowed his head, tears falling into the dirt. The elders, stripped of their chief, turned to Nneoma. "What shall we do now, child? Without the covenant, without the sacrifices, how shall we live?" Nneoma lifted her face to the sky. The smoke had cleared, revealing a flock of white egrets gliding gracefully across the horizon. She felt something stir deep within her, the ancestors, watching, perhaps even smiling. "We will live by the truth," she declared. "No longer will we trade our children for false peace. No longer will we worship the greed of men. The spirits are not bloodthirsty. They are guardians of life, not death. If we honor them with honesty, with kindness, with unity, they will bless us." The people murmured, nodding, some even clapping softly. For the first time in generations, hope flickered where fear once ruled. That evening, instead of a sacrifice, the villagers lit a great fire, not of destruction, but of remembrance. They sang old songs, not to beg for protection, but to celebrate survival. Drums beat not with dread, but with joy. Nneoma sat by the fire, Obioma by her side, Nneoma a few steps away. She listened to the voices rising around her, voices once chained by silence, now unafraid to speak, to sing, to cry. For the first time, Umuozala was free. And those scars remained, burnt roofs, lost lives, memories of horror. The dawn of a new song had come. Nneoma closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "They tried to silence me. But the truth does not burn, and the truth does not die. The truth will always rise with the dawn." For the first time, Umuozala was free. And though scars remained, Burnt roofs, lost lives, memories of horror. The dawn of a new song had come. Like and subscribe for more stories.